Tansei, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Premiers from across Canada are meeting in Huntsville, Ontario this week to discuss a number of issues, including the August 1st looming deadline to reach a new trade deal with the United States before a 35% tariff is slapped on Canadian goods. On Monday, the premiers met with Indigenous leaders, including Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak. The National Chief joins us now from Huntsville. Thanks for joining us, National Chief Woodhouse-Neepanak. Can you tell our viewers first, what were some of the topics you brought up with the premiers today?
Absolutely. Look, I think, first of all, it was tough for me to come here because I'd had a discussion with our elders and our chiefs last week, because national chiefs before me, they come to this meeting, it's, the day before, and then we're kind of kicked out and sent packing. And I echoed that to the premiers today around the table. And I know that it was uncomfortable for them to hear that, but it's the truth. And I just told them, I said, it's so important that First Nations people have a proper full seat around the table. And you want to come in here and you want to talk about big projects. And, at the same time, we need to talk about some uncomfortable truths when it comes to our people, like our little kids on First Nations communities that may not have access to clean drinking water, or proper paved roads, or high-speed internet, or, that $350 billion infrastructure gap that, that First Nations experienced. And I know that maybe this country doesn't want to always talk about those things, but that's the reality for many of our people. I know four flying communities, for instance, in the northern part of this country that don't have a hospital yet, and yet there's 15,000 of them that are there. And so I talked about all those uncomfortable, hard truths, and that the prosperity of this country, that First Nations have been very generous by sharing of the land. And, a lot of people have done well coming over to this country, but First Nations were have been foundational creators and partners in the creation of Canada. First Nations and the Crown created this country. And of course, you have all the provinces as well. And we're all a family. Nobody's going anywhere anymore. So we have to try and find a different way forward. So I did challenge them to a First Ministers meeting. And we built consensus, of course, around the table that they would have a First Ministers meeting, that they will put that request to the Prime Minister to begin, dialogue and working on, of course, a First Ministers meeting with First Nations people on economic reconciliation and, finding the path forward in this country.
And Cindy, what about Bill 5 and Bill C5? Did you get a sense the premiers understand the concerns First Nations have with these two pieces of legislation? And do they want to work with First Nations on future projects?
Oh, I think everybody was there to try and, show respect towards First Nations. But I told them, I said, if you really want to show respect, give us a full seat at the table. And I think that now is the time. It's 2025. And we've done a lot of work and progress over the past 40 years in this country, but we have a long way to go still. There's so many gaps that exist. And I think that we deserve a full seat at that table. I know that they're meeting again tomorrow. And, like national chiefs have said before me, where's our seat?
Can you also speak to the Prime Minister's meeting last week really quickly here? What was your sense from the meeting? There was chiefs on one side saying that they didn't agree with the meeting, how it was rolled out and dished out too quickly, too soon. What is your takeaway from that meeting?
Look, I think it was important. The problem is we have the last time that the Prime Minister and First Nations had met was 13 years ago. And I think that that's too far apart. And I know when I talked to the Prime Minister when he first elected, just a few months ago, I pushed him to make sure that he meets with First Nations chiefs on these issues, plus on other issues that this country faces, our country faces. We want to make things, of course, always better for everybody, but at the same time, not having a full seat, like, at the First Minister's meeting tomorrow, or at the Council of the Federation tomorrow. It makes it tough, and I just that's why I came today. The elders had told me to come along with some of our leadership that said go, even though it seems like you're always trying go. So that I did, I challenged them today to have a First Minister's meeting. So I think let's work towards that and put our issues on the table, and how do we want to see this country change for the better, so that our grandchildren 30 years from now are not having these same discussions. And let's close that infrastructure gap once and for all. I know that it's a big number of $350 billion, but a little child on a First Nation community deserves a good education, a safe community, a good home, access to clean drinking water, access for their parents to have good jobs and good security, and access to the banking system. Like, there's so many things that, when you're on reserve, that are harder for you as a family than off reserve, or access even to something like hospitals, for instance. Like I had said, with those 15,000 people in one area, what country or what community or town would take up with that, or for how long that they have such beautiful people, but they deserve better. And I think of our people like that, and that they deserve a better life in their own homeland.
National Chief, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Last week, we reported on a Calgary police officer who has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder in the deaths of Wesley Davidson and Levon Fox Wildman during a slow-speed chase. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to Levon's mother about the new charges and the potential trial ahead.
In May of 2023, a 5-ton cube van was allegedly stolen. Calgary police followed it along the Calgary streets at a slow pace. Video shows the speeds as it drove along Memorial Drive. Inside was Wesley Davidson, the driver, and Levon Fox Wildman, the passenger. In the video, you can hear several shots being fired. Both men died from the bullets of Constable Craig Stothard, a 15-year veteran. The family of Levon Fox Wildman held a memorial walk, saying Levon was killed unjustly. Last week, the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, or ASIRT's, investigation concluded, and Constable Stothard was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. He was quickly released on bail. Lena Wildman, Levon's mother, says she was called at work by ASIRT with the news of the charges.
It was very, very emotional for me. I had to leave from work and come home because it was too much for me. And to hear that he was being charged with second degree, like murder, it just reaffirmed what I knew from everything that I saw. It just reaffirmed that my son didn't have to die. That policeman didn't have to pull the trigger.
She doesn't understand how Constable Stothard felt threatened enough to shoot.
My son didn't even have the opportunity to show his hands and get out of the vehicle. They didn't even have any weapons. They weren't shooting back at the police or nothing. So the reality that there was intent to take his life, it really hurt. It really hurt. And yes, there was anger. There was anger and a lot of sadness too.
Sadness that will never go away. Levon was a father of 4. She says he was a family man, kind-hearted, and a good athlete. He won his first rodeo at 14 years old.
We have to deal with a lifelong of loss. We have to deal with a lifelong of grief. It's a life-changing event. We have to deal with it.
And now the family has to prepare for a potential trial and travel from Edmonton to Calgary to do so. She is worried the trial will give the officer special treatment.
We plan to be there because I want to let him know that That's not just another Indian on the street. That's not just another homeless street person. You know, I want him to know that he had family. My son had family. I want him to know my son was loved. So I'm going to be there every appearance.
Don McLeod, Constable Stothard's lawyer, told APTN that his client maintains his innocence and intent to mount a full and vigorous defense. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
The annual Back to Batage Festival wrapped up this weekend at the Batage National Historic Site in Saskatchewan. The event was filled with music, activities, and Métis culture. Outside the festival, a demonstration was held calling for accountability from Matei Nation Saskatchewan leadership. APTN video journalist Rachel May was there.
So right now, a lot of Métis citizens throughout the province have had a lot of concerns regarding finances and harassment allegations and stopping our 2 elected regional representatives from representing their peoples.
Festival goers arriving at Back to Batage on Friday were met with signs demanding transparency, accountability, and an audit. Earlier this year, MNS CEO Richard Quintel accused 4 elected officials of harassing him. One of the accused was Cathy Pruden-Nansel. Although she was not re-elected in this year's election, she says taking part in peaceful demonstrations, especially at Batage, is important.
Our elders led this process. They gave us direction. They're the ones that wanted us to come out here. This is Batage. It's our sacred space. We all have rights. We want to be heard.
After the MNS election, 2 of the 4 regional representatives were re-elected, but barred from their swearing-in ceremony and blocked from attending provincial Métis Council meetings. Last week, they were told they would receive a follow-up swearing-in ceremony, but no clarity was given on whether they'll be allowed back into council meetings. When asked about this, MNS President Glenn McCallum said there's a process to follow, and the ceremony is important to keep the MNS government functioning.
We have any government that you go to, any institution you go to, you have rules. You know, I wouldn't want to break rules. I'm not here to break rules. But there's protocols that you need to have and you need to follow, and that's what we have. We're no different from any other government.
The event also marked a key moment between MNS and Parks Canada, with a memorandum of understanding signed to bring 50 bison to Batage by the end of the year. McCallum said working with Parks Canada is important to keep Métis history alive.
Well, as you well know, the history of the Métis has always been involved in the hunting, harvesting of buffalo from way back when, from the East Coast to coming down to the prairies.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe was also at Back to Batage to mark the start of the festival. He said attending events like this is vital to ensure governments at all levels can move forward together.
Moving forward, there's tough discussions that happen between any government, any level of government and other levels of government and people and groups that we represent. But you need to show up and you need to commit to working through even those tough discussions.
Moe added that events like Back to Batage are a chance to celebrate Indigenous achievements, highlighting programs like the Dene Teacher Program and the Clarence Campo Fund. Rachel May, APTN National News, Batage.
A protest was also held in Quebec City over the weekend to denounce provincial legislation Bill 97. The bill intends to modernize the forestry regime and will split Quebec's forests into 3 zones: forest development zones, conservation zones, and multi-purpose zones, with the Quebec government saying it will balance conservation and logging. Some Indigenous activists, politicians, and those within communities impacted by Bill 97 say they were not properly consulted on the legislation. While some First Nations in Quebec have set up blockades on logging roads and sent eviction notices to forestry companies, some activists have been mobilizing protests in Montreal and Quebec City. This past weekend was held outside of Quebec's National Assembly. APTN News spoke with one of the organizers who is from an Innu First Nation.
Je suis Péquot-Camino, donc Innu du Lac-Saint-Jean. Puis je vois comment le territoire est déjà détruit par les compagnies forestières, les autres compagnies. En tant que premier peuple, on n'a pas été consulté assez, on s'est pas fait demander. Puis, fait que c'est ça, on est là pour ça, pour montrer en fait notre désaccord face au projet de loi 97 puis demander qu'ils soient enlevés.
APTN's Savannah Craig is up next to tell us how artificial intelligence is having an impact on both the environment and people. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's no secret that artificial intelligence is becoming more commonly used. Just go on any social media platform to see it. However, with large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini being used to develop images or answer questions, artificial intelligence can come at a cost for both the environment and people. APTN Savannah Craig reports.
I don't have the cards right now.
This isn't what really happened at the White House when Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited U.S. President Donald Trump. But the use of artificial intelligence, or AI, is allowing for alternate realities to be imagined online. For some communities, AI is causing harm.
The biases that we as Māori, as Indigenous folk, are facing with artificial intelligence is worrying.
By Māori, with Māori, for Māori. That's how it's got to be.
Peter Hudson is a Maori philosopher and PhD candidate at the Massey University of New Zealand. His research looks at how Indigenous knowledge can develop next-generation AI.
Judges are using the predictable AIs to help with their judgment. And because we as Indigenous people are already being biased within our real lives, it's exacerbating. The artificial intelligence is now exacerbating those problems that we have in actual life and repeating the discriminational patterns that are happening in the artificial intelligence.
I came along and said, hey bro, we got to have love in that algorithm.
Hudson took part in the AI Indigenous gathering in Montreal recently, at an event looking at how AI can address real-world needs within Indigenous communities. He says AI can learn certain biases from those that feed it information.
If the artificial intelligence has a value base of white, very rich, middle-aged men, well, then it's automatically going to be biased against, again, gender Indigenous people.
We can learn how to do things from what our ancestors did.
But he says these biases can be changed by involving Indigenous people in the further development of AI.
What we call tikanga and mātauranga, which is practices and knowledge that could be, should be enshrined in an algorithm that would then promote the cultural well-being for Māori, for me and my family.
There's not only a social impact from AI.
When the operator makes $1 billion, the environment is hit by about $2 billion.
Ibrahim Bagiri is a professor at the University of Toronto. His work looks into how to build AI ethically and responsibly. Large language models are the AI systems that platforms like ChatGPT or Gemini use.
For the data center to remain functional, it needs to reduce the heat in the data center. For every 50 messages you send, you need about half a liter of fresh water to cool the data center, right? Now, there's a huge amount of environmental impact because you need the water that could have otherwise been used for other purposes now goes to the cooling of the data center.
The AI systems that we design shouldn't and can't exist in a vacuum.
Hudson says while AI has had negative impacts on both Indigenous people and the environment, bringing Indigenous communities to the table creates both economic opportunities for these communities and implements Indigenous realities into the data that AI learns from.
By coming to conferences like this, we recognise, and we already know, that we're not siloed to our own Indigenous struggles. And there are always Indigenous struggles, and to come together as one means we have a more powerful base for leverage, for change.
Trailer park titans just can't win.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Jared Morin wanted to show off his Indian taco just to make us all wish at APTN News. Hole that, Jared. Just kidding, no, but we can't tell if it's homemade or restaurant-bought Indian taco, but oh man, does it look good. Yum. Send us your pictures to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the east, St. John's 21 in rain, Charlottetown 22 in sun there. Cartwright 11, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, showers in 17. 23 in Saguenay, Quebec City 24. Windsor 26, Ottawa 25 and sunny there. Big Trout Lake, rain in 22, Sioux Lookout, showers in 24. Churchill 20, Thompson, smoky and 21. Winnipeg 22, Barons River 23. 20 in Saskatoon, Regina 21. Meadow Lake, smoky at 19, LaRange, smoke there as well at 20. Sunny in Fort McMurray at 21, high level 23. 14 in Lethbridge and rain, Red Deer 15. 16 in Tofino, Penticton 27 in showers. 27 in Smithers, Dees Lake 23. Beaver Creek 16, Dawson 21. Norman Wells 19, Watee 20 in sun. Partly cloudy in Sax Harbor at 13, Polituck 16. Rain in Chesterfield at 9, Arvey at 15. And Resolute 8, Iqaluit 9. The annual celebration of light fireworks kicked off over the weekend in Vancouver. This year's event was hosted by the Canadian provinces rather than countries from around the world as they normally have in the past. First up was Yukon, who put on a grand showcase that attracted tens of thousands of people along Vancouver's English Bay. Next is Quebec on Wednesday, July 23rd, and then Nova Scotia will conclude the three-day event on Saturday, July 26th. This is the first time in the annual fireworks competition where there is an all-Canadian battle. So cool. And that's your evening newscast for this Monday. We're back again tomorrow for your daytime newscast at 12 p.m. Winnipeg time. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, Kwana, Masicho, Hai Hai, Miigwech, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.